Okay, being 11:45, I'm going to open up the public hearing on House Bill 1165 relative to gender designation on state-issued identifications. Chair recognizes the prime sponsor, Representative King. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues, for this hearing today. I'm Representative Seth King. I represent COAS District 4. Not going to take too much of your time today. I realize that this is just a small part of a much bigger issue that we're not going to be able to litigate during a public hearing on this. So I'm just going to keep it as brief as I can. First thing I want to do is just talk about what this bill does. Right now, when a person gets some sort of state identification card, they have the option of male, female, or X to choose from. And what this does is this eliminates that X option. I'm a big fan, generally speaking, when possible, instead of adding new code to the statutes, I like to take away what I consider to be bad code. And so you'll see, if you look through the bill, that this really just removes code, and then it uses the word or, so male or female. But so it's just a very simple bill. The question why I did this is, long story short, I completely oppose transgender ideology. I think it was a big mistake that several years ago, our bodies, the House of Representatives, Senate, and so on, passed this bill and other bills like it. And my goal is to try and reverse that trend little by little. I have another bill that's going before Judiciary. It's a much larger bill that I thought about attaching the two, this bill with that, but I felt that because this is a transportation issue, it should be two different bills. I think the last thing I would just say is that there's probably not going to be too many people on my side who are going to come today and speak on this. I'll probably be the only one. But that doesn't mean it's not a popular issue. I think, as far as I could tell, polling is 70% plus is with me on this in favor of rolling back the transgender ideology bills that we've seen fly across the country. They happened at the end of the 2010s, largely when a certain party was in power, not my own, and it kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, and they didn't really understand the ramifications of it. And I think the American people have now come to realize the ramifications of radical transgender ideology, and they are opposed to it, and we're doing what we can to roll it back. There's probably going to be some people that speak against this bill, and if I had to make a guess, there's going to be some sob stories. But I just want to say one thing, and that is that transgenderism or X options on your license, this has nothing to do with biology. This is psychology. This is ideology. This is a spiritual issue, but it is not a biological issue. There is no X gender. There are male and female, and I think that it is in our best interests when the state recognizes natural biology, when it recognizes nature, not fashions of the day, not ideology, but actual nature. So for that reason, I would hope that you would support this bill, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Representative St. Clair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative. Would you be against the removal of all such letters, M, F, X, from our licenses?
I mean, I suppose M and F are short for male and female. So no, I don't see any reason to get rid of M or F. No.
Follow up?
Follow up.
So you would agree then that somebody that you show your license to would have a problem with that, not knowing what sex somebody is?
I'm not sure I follow your question.
Well, if in other words, when I'm dealing with somebody and ask for their ID, maybe to drink, I would need to know if that person is a woman or a man?
I mean, I don't know if bartenders look at one's gender or sex I don't know if they do. I would assume, I don't know, maybe they do. I don't know. It's a good question. But generally speaking, when it comes to identification, there are probably some examples where it is important for the person either looking at the information or maybe we're searching for somebody who's committed a crime or is missing or something, and we look at what identification we have for them on record. And I think that it should reflect one's biology, not some, ethereal idea like X.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Vale.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
What are the biological implications of driving a car? We hear over and over that the driver's license allows you to drive a car. That's the only real rationale for having it. What does the biology of the person have to do with their ability to drive a car, or does it change the penalty if they're pulled over for speeding? Or
I don't think it does. Thank you for the question. I don't think it does, but if you look at the bill, this is more than just driver's license. It's all state identification. And I mean, I guess the question you could be asking is why even have gender at all on there? That's an interesting topic. Maybe we should just get rid of it completely. I would actually be against that, but at least then the state would be recognizing reality, which is to say that if the state just didn't care, that would be at least in the realm of what's real. But when we start adding things that aren't real, like X or other made up genders, then we have a real problem. So for me, a lot of the reason I have this, I'm against it, is because I think it's best when the state is grounded in reality, not in ideology like that. But I still think that there probably it would be. I think there's definitely a case for still being male and female. I guess that goes to your question as well too. But yeah, I think that separating the genders would be important still.
I saw you next. Representative Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So would you consider putting an X on your license to be a liberty?
Thank you for your question. And historically speaking, I've definitely considered myself a libertarian, and I like freedom of choice. And I affirm one's ability to live in a way that they choose to deem fit, as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others. I think people should be able to dress how they want, get the body modifications they want, and change their name, these sorts of things. But when it comes to the state and its recognition, I still think that, no, you don't get to just choose what gender you want. Just like I don't get to say, well, I'm 6'7" and 170 pounds of pure muscle. I don't get to put that on my identification. Race is still a thing, gender is still a thing, height is a thing, hair color, eye color. These things all matter in identifying people, and I don't see it as a liberty issue to be taking X away as an option.
Quick follow-up.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm trying to figure out where the state interest is, because in my view, there should be a state interest in taking away a liberty. And I don't see a state interest in having, what does gender matter on any of these documents? Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I guess I just don't see it as a liberty being taken away. I see it more of as a I guess you could say privilege that has only recently been enacted. That's going away. It's a very recent, somehow our country managed to have identifications with gender on them for many decades without any issue, and only recently, because of radical transgender ideology, has this even been allowed. And I think that the state will be just fine without it.
Just a simple one for me. Should government-issued identification, whether it's licenses, non-driver's licenses, et cetera, for purely identification reasons only, should it be based on facts or feelings?
I thank you for the question. I definitely think it should be based on facts. Feelings are very fleeting. A person could change their feelings from one day to the next, and the government, the state, society, we should not be so in confusion. We should be based in reality.
Thank you. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Seth. I like that there's two of us in the same house. And thank you for taking my question, Representative King, obviously. Facts, not feelings, and not these fleeting things. Yet I mentioned hair and eye color, two things that can frequently change. We were comparing our IDs this morning, and the photos that we have on them. I think you could probably pick us out, but definitely don't look the same as I did 8 years ago when I got my picture taken. And so with those things and the concept of you said there's significant ramifications for having the X on there, that there's real problems that we're solving and infringement on the rights of others. Can you identify what are the ramifications? What are these real problems that exist from having an X marker on the license? What its presence, what rights of someone else that presence of that X marker infringes upon, that the state is inflicting this pain by having this available?
Thank you for the question. There's two questions there. I'll answer the first one first. You're right. Hair color can change. People can dye it. It changes over time, these sorts of things. Eye color, people can wear contacts. It changes. But every cell of your body is either XX or XY chromosomes. This cannot be changed. I don't care how many hormones you take or how many body modifications you do, you will never turn an XX into an XY or an XY into an XX. That does not happen. As far as what harm is it, quite frankly, you're right. As people are going about their day, this doesn't really affect me or most people in a direct sense. Okay. But it is part of a much larger issue that is at hand. And like I said, this bill could very well have been attached to another bill that I have coming before the House, another committee. I won't go into that here, but I think that if we want to fix the problems that have been created over the last just 7 or 8 years with radical transgender ideology, this is one of the things that need to be changed. Because quite frankly, when you have an identification like this, it does afford people certain privileges that they may go away when this gets changed.
Representative Vayu. But before you do that, though, Representative Miller, you mentioned your picture's 8 years old. Are you driving around with a 3-year expired driver's license? Representative Vayu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is equally as old, but I had brown hair. I guess that changed. Are you aware that people can have mixes of XY beyond the XX or XY? That can be extra X chromosomes, extra Y chromosomes. People who have XY can present as female. Do we have to have a DNA test to verify that?
It's a good question. Thank you. I think what you're really alluding to is XXYs. No, that's not what you're referring to?
No, there's a broad mix of genetic anomalies that can occur. XY. There are people who, like, this shouldn't be a commentary, but there are people who have XY chromosomes, but because they lack the receptor for testosterone, they present as female because that is the default sex.
Well, again, still, it is possible that people can do body modifications intentionally or not a body modification. They were just born that way. Maybe they were born with missing genitalia or things do happen like that. But at the end of the day, people are still one or the other. And also, just to get into it a little bit deeper, the overwhelming majority of people that we're seeing take advantage of this X option and the whole transgender ideology, they're perfectly normal XXs or XYs, and they really they're using this as an excuse for something that they're just not. They're just not.
All right. Seeing no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Next up, Chair recognizes, looks like Michael Haley. I'm not sure who you're representing other than law. You can let us know when you come up. In opposition to the bill, looking for 3 minutes, which is welcome news.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Michael Haley. I'm from Derry, New Hampshire, and I'm also a staff attorney at Glad Law. And we oppose this bill. I won't be duplicative of the written testimony that is making its way around, but I just have three quick points to make. The first is that this was a statute that was passed in 2019 with bipartisan support under a Republican governor. There's been no documented problems with it, as the sponsor just explained. It was voted out of committee with a 15-3 majority. So there's really no reason to revisit this policy where it's been in place now for 6 years without any real problems to speak of. The second point is that accurate identification is important for everybody, including people who are not exclusively male or exclusively female. That includes people who are non-binary, who will experience what's known as gender dysphoria if they are not able to live their lives the way that they feel themselves to be. And part of being able to address that gender dysphoria, which is a serious psychological condition, is to be able to transition socially. Having documentation that reflects who you are can be extremely beneficial to people in that situation, and to take it away from people, especially those who already have it, is just unnecessary when there's not been any problems associated with it. The other is to follow on to the point recently made by Representative View, which is that about 1% of the population does have some type of intersex condition. There are about 36 of them that can result in people not being exclusively biologically male or biologically female, for any number of reasons, whether it's genetics, different chromosomes, different hormone sensitivities. And these people, sometimes they may receive some kind of medical treatment and ultimately identify as exclusively male or female, but many do not. And taking away this option from their identification just results in them not having accurate identification. And then another point is that there is a recognized right to expression in New Hampshire, even as it pertains to government identification. So in terms of recently, we had a lawsuit about 10 years ago about the right of people to be expressive on license plates, which are a state-issued identification document, essentially. And other courts in other states have recognized a right to expression in terms of people's gender. So although there has not been any court case that deals specifically with this issue, because of how New Hampshire has addressed the freedom of expression in this context, there's a strong argument that people have a right to designate their gender based on their right to freedom of expression. And then the very final point that I'll make, I just picked up the printed out one here because I didn't see in the online version whether there had been a fiscal note, and it doesn't appear that there is here. But I did note that when this went into effect, there was an implementation cost of about $25,000, and insurance companies came to the committee to explain that it was going to take them a lot of time and money to update their systems. And so it's not costless to go back. I would encourage the committee to consider whether it's worth spending additional state funds to fix a problem that doesn't exist, especially when you don't know what those costs are. I'm happy to take any questions.
Representative Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a quick question for you. What are your quick thoughts on just getting rid of gender on these IDs? Because honestly, I'm just trying to grasp at why we even have it on there.
Thanks for the question. I would agree. I don't really know if there's a basis for that. I would encourage the committee to get other community input on that. But there is no gender basis for driving a car or for, you show your ID to have someone verify that you are who you say you are. And in that sense, maybe it's good to have a gender identity, a gender marker on it, but then it should be the gender that you appear as. It would be confusing for people to present IDs that don't match who they are, because then you're going to get mismatches of who's who. So I don't personally have a problem sorry, to return to your question over the problem of getting rid of sex markers on identification at all.
Representative Ayu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. Do we know how many people have taken advantage of the X indicator?
Thank you for the question. I think that would be a great question for the Department of Safety, but I don't know.
Representative Pataro.
Thank you, Chairman Walsh. And thank you, Attorney Haley, for taking my question. under the backdrop of what we're talking about here, can you discuss any implications or ramifications from the federal government's executive orders as it pertains to this kind of decoupling as it pertains to the public sector? Does it fall to us in any way? Any comment?
Oh, thank you for the question. At bottom, executive orders do not create law. They instruct federal agencies to take particular actions. They don't have any ability to bind states or tell them to do any particular thing. So I would say they have no impact on what this body decides to do about gender markers on New Hampshire driver's licenses.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Chair recognizes Ty Thompson, representing myself. Opposed to the bill, looking for 3 minutes. Welcome.
There we go. All right. Thank you for spending the time to listen to me. My name is Ty Thompson. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a resident of Nottingham, New Hampshire. I'm here today to urge you to vote ITL on HB 1165. I'm currently one of those people who has an X gender marker on my driver's license. This is my accurate gender identity. And right now, all of my legal documents are congruent. My birth certificate, my federal identification, and my state license all match. As just previously discussed, in 2019, this legislature passed HB 669 with a bipartisan support through voice votes in both the House and Senate, and was signed into law by Republican Governor Chris Sununu, recognizing that everyone deserves identification that is both affirming and accurate. This law is a statement that the will of the people and the dignity of individual Granite Staters could be respected regardless of party lines or identity. This legislation seeks to undo this settled bipartisan progress. Since this law has been signed, since this marker has been available, there have been no reported issues for law enforcement in New Hampshire. My state-issued ID is a form of government-mandated self-identification. Everybody who seeks to receive a New Hampshire license self-attests to their gender identity. This is no different for me. Passing this bill would force me to carry a card that misidentifies me in the form of compelled speech. It would force me to present a false identity, and is a direct violation of my informational privacy, a value that is central to the spirit of live free or die. In the spirit of live free or die, I'm deeply concerned by the context of this bill as the opening salvo for no less than 10 bills this week that target transgender people and other members of the LGBTQIA community in ways that we are visible, in ways in which we are able to access the everyday people, places, and things that support health and well-being. I would be here every day to have these conversations with you all, but I am busy living my life. Work, friends, family, pets, the way we all do. I am weary of these conversations and wary of their prevalence on the national stage being repeated here in New Hampshire at the local level. Radical transgender ideology being a phrase that is coined on a national stage that we are hearing here in this room today, that I find deeply disturbing. History shows us that authoritarian states target minorities and consolidate power by creating a common enemy, diverting public frustration and strengthening an in-group solidarity and identity. Framing other as an existential threat is ultimately a strategy that lends itself to greater control of the majority through a framework of fear. I see this every day when I read the comments about proposed legislation, this legislation and legislation like it, where people are putting into words imagined violent responses to imaginary threats that don't exist. This is the danger of this type of legislation and all of the legislation that we are here year after year repeating and having these same types of testimony. I am deeply fearful of these trends I am seeing nationally, and I do not care to see them here in the Granite State. This bill follows this dangerous pattern by using the law to other a segment of the Granite State population that is simply trying to live peacefully. I am one of the many people across over 20 states and the entire New England region who use this marker. The current system works for me. I see no problem with it in the state. There's nothing that's been testified here today that says it bears direct impact on even the person who is proposing the legislation. I respectfully ask that you respect my right to privacy, my dignity, and to hold true to the live free or die motto and the fierce independence of our state by recommending ITL on this legislation. I think this is helpful for me and the general population who would do well to have less fear in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, thank you very much. Next up, Chair recognizes, looks like Robert Lawless. And opposed to the bill, looking for a couple of minutes, which would be appreciated, sir. We are running behind.
I'll try to keep this even shorter.
Thank you.
Today, took a look at what was going on here, and I looked for what was the stupidest legislation possible. And here it is, right here. This bill does nothing that I can see. It does nothing of any value. The lawyer that spoke previously did ask about cost. Nobody else had asked about the cost. So what are we buying for our $25,000 plus some other undisclosed amount to change things that are working just fine the way they are? I don't know. It seems that the only purpose of this is to embarrass and make life harder for the people that this bill will impact. I don't see any other purpose to it, none whatsoever. The person who put this forward, yes, lots of radical transgender ideology, and it's not about feelings. It certainly seems like that's all it's about. Person's feelings that decided this bill needed to come to pass to make someone's life more difficult. So let's just worry about the cost. It is going to cost something. It's going to do nothing. That's really all I have to say. I wish we had the option of asking questions, but we don't, because I have some more questions. I'm sure a lot of people do too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I have nobody else signed up to speak on House Bill 1165, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Give us a couple minutes to reset. Actually, being 10 past 2, about 20 past 2, we'll go into 1362.
Oh, thank you.
It's fine to decide to speak up.
Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you for
Every time I raise my name, Charlie asks my question.
Thank you.
Over here, Charlie. Over here.
Very nervous.
Every time I raise my hand, you ask my question. Oh, so I'm tardy?